Hi, welcome to Lasers, Dragons, Keyboards. I'm Aaron DeMott.
I'm Josh Hart.
Pretty Spidell Hart. Today on the show, we have with us Thomas Doscher. He is an author and retired Air Force journalist with a degree in history from the University of Maryland University College. During his Air Force career, Thomas wrote news and feature stories for the Air Force and joint military publications across 20 years and 3 deployments. Thomas retired from the Air Force in 2021 and now spends his time writing and being with his wife and 2 sons in Illinois. Welcome, Thomas. We're glad to have you on the show today.
Thanks. It's great to be
Well,
here.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
really psyched.
and we're gonna go we're gonna go right off the rails today. It's gonna be fun. Um, anyway, how we got to know Thomas is I was last year I was scrolling along Facebook on my phone between tasks, as one does, and
of course.
it's like, oh, no, cat girl. Wait, squints. Oh wait, that's a fox. Anyway, I'll click that ad. Sure enough, close enough. Like, oh, that book looks really good. Read it. Oh, that is really good. Oh, we'll just buy all of those in that series. So anyway, that's how we found Thomas. Well, I did.
Yeah, Josh and I have not had the pleasure yet.
Oh,
So
you should. They're really good. It's
it sounds like it.
kind of a sci-fi, cultural history, and all sorts of neat stuff.
Yeah, don't lend them those books. Make them buy them, okay?
Oh well,
I'm trying
yeah.
to, I'm trying to buy a boat.
Speaking of that, I need to get physical copies too. I just have the Kindle right now. So I need to get
Yeah,
physical copies of all those as well. They're that good. I would buy them twice.
that's
I
good
have
to
books
know.
like that too. So
Yeah.
Thomas, we like to start out the show with asking, what is your name? What is your quest? And what is your favorite color?
Okay. I am Senior Master Sergeant Thomas Joseph Doscher, Esquire, United States Air Force retired. Uh, my quest is to get to a point in my writing career where I can live well enough off the royalties to take my wife traveling around the world so I can write books from the deck of a cruise ship.
Ooh, that'd
And
be fun.
my favorite color is blue. Did I miss one?
I
I
don't
don't think
think
I missed
so.
one.
No, that
No, we're
was
good.
everything.
Okay.
You didn't.
Sounds good to me. And deck of
Yeah.
a cruise ship, that would be awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I,
that's the thing about, being a writer. You can do that job
Mhm.
anywhere now. And I
Yep.
want
that's
to.
true.
I hear you on that. So that would be a big difference from going from the Air Force to being on a ship. So
Yeah. Yeah. Air Force to Navy, I guess, the civilian
Yeah.
version.
yeah, exactly.
Hey,
So
So,
oh,
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's a neat story. So if you can tell us about the inspiration for the Vixen War Bride, because I think that's kind of a neat story. So.
So, about 10 years ago, I was reading a book called Blossoms in the Wind. And it is a book about the Japanese kamikaze pilots in World War II. And during my studies, it just kind of came to me uh, how different the culture was that we were fighting against. And we take it for granted nowadays uh, how easy it is to be exposed to other cultures because we got the internet and we got TV, and it's if you want to learn Japanese or Korean, you just hop on the internet for a little bit and you can pick it up. But back then, yes, there was a lot of cultural mixing, but for the average farm boy from Illinois, uh, they might as well have been fighting people from the moon. They ate different things. They had different cultures, different ways of war. Uh, I mean, you can spend 10 years in Japan and still not be able to read the headlines in the newspaper. Whereas on the other side of the world, when you're fighting the Germans, you can at least sound it out. Culturally, we had a lot more in common with the Germans than we did even the British. That was something that Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, remarked when he said, that the most important military fact of the 20th century would be that the Americans speak English. So it was that's a long geeky history nerd way around it. But during my research, I came across an anecdote, and I've been looking for it ever since. I must have sold the book that had it, where right after World War II, this army captain who was in charge of this little village near where one of these kamikaze bases was, this Japanese woman comes marching into his office, followed by the village mayor, begging her to shut up. And she says something along the lines of, I'm here to turn myself in. You've been looking for me. And this guy has no idea who this person is or why, but apparently she's turning herself in for war crimes. And it turns out her war crime was that she owned an inn where the kamikaze pilots, on their last night before they would go fly off and die, they would go to her inn and they'd have they'd have dinner, they'd be singing and talking, and basically just their last night alive. And so he didn't want to insult her by saying, that's not important, get away. So he put her in the town jail for a few hours and then let her out. And that seemed to satisfy the whole situation. And reading about that, thinking all that stuff kind of came together. Says, I wonder, that sounds like something you would see in a sci-fi movie. That's an episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's just been percolating that way ever since. And thankfully, my military experience gave me a lot of sometimes hilarious, sometimes sad stories that can fill it out. And that's so. When I was approaching my retirement, I started going to the base coffee shop on lunch every day, and I would write for an hour. And it's what brought me back from kind of a really dark time in my life. So I was very thankful that I was able to do that.
Nice.
So
That
yeah,
is
if you like
really
history-inspired sci-fi with a really, really slow burn romance subplot, these books are it.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be it went through a lot of, originally it was supposed to be almost a comedy, like a Japanese light novel type.
Cough Ramirez
comedy.
cough.
Yeah. And then but the more I wrote it, the more it became serious. And I don't know if you looked if you've been on the Facebook page, but there are some deleted scenes of Ramirez.
Oh, they're awesome.
And one of the subplots where there was just, it didn't fit the tone of the book, so I left them out, and people were asking about it, so I put them on Facebook for them to read. And it was just
great.
It's just great.
Yeah, there should be a sign up on that base. Do not let Ramirez teach any of the locals English.
Oh, yeah.
And if you read the book, it's funnier. That statement's funnier yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Ramirez is great. You can always tell when he's had a hand in something. Like there's, in book 6, there's a map, and there's a portion of it, that the aliens call in their language means the Black Forest, and Ramirez wrote in parentheses where we get our ham.
He's just like that through the whole thing.
Okay, I need to read this just for Ramirez.
You do, you'd love it.
So
I know what's going to be put on your Kindle next, dear.
Yeah. I'm assuming that this Ramirez is your favorite character.
No, he's not.
Oh.
He's a side character actually, isn't he?
He's a pretty good side character, but I think my favorite, the one that surprised me most, is this alien woman named Shonan. She's a
Queen of Sass. Yes.
Yes, and she is just an epic troll. And when I started out with her, she was just going to be like in 1 or 2 scenes, and the more I wrote her, the more I loved her. So I found more and more reasons to include her until she was playing a big part of the book.
And she's awesome because she's a troll and full of sass, but she's also one of the main characters' best friends. Always has her back, but in kind of a snarky way too, and it's great.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, she gets a lot of love too.
And
Yeah.
almost, spoilers there, but speaking of that general topic, can't believe you killed Spoiler off. You dirty little. Why couldn't you have killed that count off instead that nobody liked?
Oh, yeah, that was a surprise. I had been sitting on that for the longest time. That was one of the things that was always going to happen, and I didn't tell anyone.
Aw.
So when because my wife reads through the scenes to make sure that everything makes sense,
Yeah.
that I haven't forgotten to include anything, and when she read that, she just turned and started hitting me.
Oh, good. I'm glad somebody did, because that hurt.
Yeah, it was.
Josh and we're like, what? And like, it's major spoiler, so you can't really tell them what. You got to kind of talk around the issue, but
Yeah, that was a big moment, and oh my god,
so
I
it was
love
something
it.
I wanted to yell at
I,
you
I
for.
love it because when if it's enough to make my wife cry and hit me, I know it's good. So as a husband, it's probably not good to say this, but I try to make my wife cry.
Josh, you can take a lesson from that.
Yes, always
I'll
make your
try.
wife cry.
But in a good way. Kind of funny.
Well, the best books that I've ever read are the ones that have made me cry or like start cursing and throw across the room.
And
So
or laughing,
yes,
laughing uncontrollably.
And sometimes back to back and 3 scenes back to back. So
yeah.
Mhm.
like Jim Butcher's changes.
Oh yes. The Dresden Files is that series for me. But
Yep, definitely.
uh
So, Thomas, I think we've kind of danced around it a little bit, but what are you working on right now? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your current project?
So right now, I am about halfway through the 6th and final book in the Vixen War Bride series. This is the one that's going to wrap everything up.
The real dark
And
ones show
then-
up, probably.
I will not spoil it. I think it's pretty obvious what's going to happen, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to spoil it for anyone
Fair
who
enough,
might be
yeah.
out there. And then after that, I have 2 more ideas. I'm really excited to branch off into something else. One is going to be basically an American isekai type series, a little more comical, a little more fun,
Oh, that sounds neat.
about a middle school history teacher. And I don't know if you know much about isekai. I mean, you guys are pretty sci-fi,
Oh, yes.
so I imagine you've heard the term. And usually, so in that trope, usually it's some hero gets pulled into another world to save people from this great evil threat. In this case, this guy is pulled in by the demons because they just basically imagine if Sauron had pulled someone from our world because they had just lost the war and they need help. And so this guy's basically been pulled in to help the villains somehow come back and win a war.
That's an interesting twist.
And it's more comical. It's not dark at all. It's definitely not going to be a dark thing. It's more comical and funny. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I have another standalone sci-fi thriller that has to do with AI that I'm also really looking forward to. But I don't want to give spoilers on that one because I really like the concept.
Yeah. So how are you prioritizing what you're working on next? Because it sounds like you're kind of all over the place, and I am one of those kind of writers, so I completely get you. But
so I made a promise to myself when I started writing Vixen War Bride, I wouldn't write anything else until it was done.
okay.
I wish I could do that.
Because I didn't want to be in that situation where I write a few books in the series and then I get distracted by something else and it takes years or never to get those books out. So I didn't want to do that to the readers. When people spend money for my book, that's that's the most amazing thing to me. I do not want to let those people down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I promised I wouldn't do anything else. With this next group, it's going to be one of those things where the series I'll write because that's where you get the money and it's easy. And the standalone, that's going to be my big Stephen King, Michael Crichton attempt. You know, that's the one where I'm actually going to reach out to publishers and try to get them interested. And in the meantime, I'll write the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that's a good approach. So.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago that sometimes two biggest lessons I learned was that one, don't let your series run so far that it stops making sense. Have an end in mind. And
Wheel
two,
of Time
don't distract
cough.
yourself. And and two, do not distract yourself until it's done.
Yeah, I wish
Those
I
are some
could
good
say
lessons that I probably need to learn.
I wish I was taking those to heart too. So I definitely hear you there. So
Well, you know, writer ADD is truly a thing. It's like, oh, there's another plot and another story here, and another, you know, yeah. So,
Yeah, and
but yeah,
the ideas come out of nowhere, and when they do, you have to
Yeah.
write them down, or
Yeah.
else they're gone.
I've had that happen in the last couple of weeks, and I've been working on some other, notes and stuff for other projects. That it's like, I want to write you now, but I promised myself I would work on this.
Just write that down in the notebook over here so I don't forget it, and hopefully come back to that at some point. And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's good because the more ideas you have, the more books you're going to write. I joined that Facebook group, 20 books to 20K.
Yeah,
And
20 books
Yep,
and
yep.
50K.
Yeah, and it's it's good to know that that kind of thing is possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good group for people to be in. If you're an author and you want to actually make money with your books, it's a great motivating. I hope to get to the 20 books to 50K conference eventually, though I hear that they're rebranding it after this year or so. Craig Martell has to step down, so but it's an amazing group, so I've learned a lot just being in that group. So Uh, so we've kind of touched on it really tiny briefly, but what's your editing process looking like? I know you said you hand it over to your wife just to make sure everything looks good, but do you go through more in-depth edits?
She punches him, gives it back, etc.
Well, yes, that's phase one. the punching is phase one. As I write, every so often I'll have my wife read it. So as I'm writing it, she'll look at it. The good thing about having been in my career field in the Air Force is that I've been an editor for 20 years. I've edited other people's work, and when we actually go to school for that. And one of the things they'll do is they will give you, when you show up to class, they'll give you a news story that they wrote, and there's 10 things wrong with it.
At least,
you have 10 minutes to find all the mistakes and use the specific markings to highlight them, because it's weird. There's actually different markings for different things.
Oh yeah.
So I enjoyed those. I had fun doing those. So I know there's a lot of people out there, they have a hard time with editing. I happen to love it. Because I love my own work. I'm a vain person. I love my own work. So my wife will look at it first, and then when it's done, I concentrate on just getting it down on paper. I know there's a lot of things that are going to be wrong with it, and then I just go back and I read through it, and I add things, I correct things as I go, and then I go through it again, and I do the same thing, and I just go over and over and over again until I get to a point where I say, okay, this is done. And there's always going to be something you miss. There's always going to be that person who comes up on Facebook and says, hey, you made a grammatical error here. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that happens to everyone. I especially love it when they mention it in the reviews. You know,
it's a typo.
Comma in there. I'm like, Like, yeah, I did, I guess. Okay.
It's always
That's
gratifying to me to read a professional book from one of the top 5 publishers. Ah, typo! It's
Yeah.
not just me, yay!
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, take
Yeah.
that, Mr. Professional Publisher.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've been reading a J.D. Nora Roberts book, and it's like I'll catch at least one typo if I'm reading it in print. So
Yeah,
It's just so
Yeah.
frustrating. It's
so-
like, no, this people's been through 5 different beta readers, 2 editors. How's there still a typo in there?
yeah.
exactly.
The issue with editing is that you have to like the work that you're editing. I've edited
yeah.
for other people as well, and it can be hard. There's a lot of authors out there, and they go, well, I don't understand why people aren't buying my book. Why aren't they buying it? And I say, okay, well, let me take a look. I'll go and I'll buy their book. I won't ask them to send me a free copy. I'll buy them because I want to give them a little support. And then you read it, and then you go, oh, that could be why.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them need just a lot of work. And it's kind of ironic. Back in high school, you wondered, why do I need to pay attention in English class? And here you are 20 years later, wishing you'd pay attention.
That's
in
why.
English class.
Yes.
Exactly.
But the editing process, it has to be fun. You have to like the work. You have to be invested in it, because if you're not, it is a job. And if you're doing it for free, it's kind of like what the Joker said: if you're good at something, never do it for free.
That's true.
So I learned that lesson the hard way. So from now on, that's if people want me to edit stuff, say, okay, give me a few bucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go to the dictionary, 3 or more. Hey, here you go.
Yeah, charged by the typo.
Ooh, ouch.
Oh,
That's going to get expensive fast.
so that's your editing process. What does marketing look like for you?
So I did marketing in the Air Force for about 20 years. Marketing in the Air Force, marketing is separate from public affairs, but basically it's almost the same thing. Public affairs essentially is public relations. So having done that for 20 years, I retired and did not want to do that anymore ever.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to marketing, I don't sweat it. I do the Amazon ads. I had an ad on Facebook for a while, and I did one marketing not company, but one marketing guy on the internet. I learned my lesson. I'll never do that again. I won't say who they are, because I realized that there are a lot of people out there who say they're good at marketing and they're just not, and it's stressful. And I don't need that in my life. I do this as a side gig. I do this because I love to write. So I do the Amazon ad and I don't sweat it. Word will get out. If my books are good, word will get out. And thank you so much for, letting me on here, because this is, this is kind of thing I hope for, when I write. I hope somebody, reads it and maybe they want to, talk to me, please talk to me. And so when I got, when Liberty reached out to me, I'm like, yay! Somebody wants to talk to me about my book.
I kind of bugged her about that, yeah.
So I try not to worry about the marketing. I think the marketing will take care of itself. I know, because there's a lot of people out there, and you'll hear about them say, I made $20,000 this month on my books. Oh, man, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah, it only cost me $19,700 in advertising. Okay, that's great. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life.
Too much stress and not
that would
enough
be a lot of
return.
stress.
Now, to be fair, I did find his book on via Facebook ad, like I said earlier. So,
which is fair.
Yeah, so Facebook, I just canceled that ad because I seemed to be paying more than it was paying off. And
Facebook's weird too, because I saw that ad last year. Went, ooh, cat girl, like I said, squints. Oh, fox girl. Read the Amazon description. Oh, it's a a book about fox people that's not a harem. I'm going to buy right away. And then, like, every single day, Facebook is still showing me this ad, and it's like, okay, Facebook, I already bought the book. You need to show this to somebody else now who has not already bought the book.
Yeah, Facebook's a little weird. The only book I ever saw on Facebook, oh God, I can't remember what it was, uh, but it was a good sci-fi book. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I just bought the 5th one for it.
And let me guess, now Facebook won't show you that. You want to find it.
Probably not.
Well, I'll look for it on Amazon. And oh, come on now, why would you do this to me? The order. Come on, which was it?
No worries.
1 year later.
Yes, 3 years later. Oh,
Which one, Becky?
So S.M. Anderson's The Eden Chronicles. I saw that first on Facebook, and that was like a Stargate type of sci-fi book, and I bought that.
Ooh.
And they are great books. He should pay me for advertising right now. But those are really, really good books. And he finally put out the 5th one. I've been waiting a year for that. And that's what said, oh, okay, well, maybe Facebook will work. But like you said, Facebook's kind of weird. Amazon, at least Amazon will tell you that, yes, we've showed your book to this many people. These are the number of people who bought it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot better, I think.
Yeah, Facebook was like, oh, we put it out there, and oh, by the way, the image you specifically told us to include, we didn't include that, we included this other one too. That happened to me once. It's like, no, why would you show that image instead of the book cover? Come on, Facebook, what are you doing?
Now give us $150.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I don't know how much money I've sunk into to Facebook ads, and it's like, this just does not pay off. So.
And apparently the confusion lies in that in the earlier days, before they fixed their algorithms, it used to pay off. I'm based on reading in different marketing groups and stuff, but yeah, it doesn't seem to anymore.
Yeah, well, the thing to remember with places like that and with publishers is that they are there to make money.
For them, not for you.
They're going to do what's best for them, not necessarily what's best for you. So whatever's good for them, that's what they're going to run with.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely.
All right. I have my mini D6.
Uh-oh.
You know what time it is.
Random question time.
All right. 6. What is your favorite book?
So, my favorite book series, I don't know if you've heard of Harry Turtledove. I imagine you have. He's amazing.
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he wrote Guns of the South, which is one of my favorites. And it's one of those books where if you see the cover, you'll immediately remember it. It's Robert E. Lee holding an AK-47.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's about a South African militant group that goes back in time and sells AK-47s to the Confederacy.
Oh no!
But Harry Turtledove, he's kind of my idol, my example, because he is a history professor who writes books, sci-fi books with history, and he proves that it's great. But my all-time favorite of his is the Videsso cycle, and that's probably a little lesser known. It is about this Roman legion in Gaul, France, that gets isekai'd, straight up taken to a world where magic is real, and it's more like the Byzantine era than it is the Romans. And the Romans basically have to hire themselves out as mercenaries in order to survive. And
nice.
it is a great series of books. One of the few series that I've read multiple times.
That sounds fun.
It does sound fun.
Great books.
We will have to put that on our to be read list that are probably longer than my block that I live on.
Yeah.
So the best thing about Turtledove is when he talks about historical stuff like the gear they're using or their methods or their tactics. It's real. It's based on real stuff. He's not making this stuff up. This is his bread and butter. This is what he teaches. So it's great.
Nice.
Yeah, you just added like 15 books to my pile. So
Yeah.
thank you.
We'll start with the Vixen War Bride, though.
Yeah, and like I said, the Guns of the South is another great one. That's just a standalone book, but it is amazing how detailed he can get into it just based on the knowledge. Robert E. Lee is a main character, and it's just how things could be different with one major change.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I think we're about wrapped up for the day. So Thomas, where can we go to learn more about you and your body of work?
Okay, so I have a Facebook author page, Thomas Doscher author. I don't have a website. Like I said, that goes back to the things I don't do for marketing. If you want to see my books on Amazon, they are there. There are also other places like Barnes and Noble. Not in the stores yet. I hope one day that they'll be popular enough to do that.
Yeah.
Now, you would think that to find my books, you would just type in the search bar, sexiest and strongest man ever. For some reason, that does not work. I've complained to Amazon numerous times, and they always whine, it's the algorithm. None of it's true. How did you get into my office? So just look for my name, or just type in the Vixen War Bride, and they will pop up.
Okay.
We'll have a link of some sort in the description here too.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. So, thank you for coming on the show, Thomas. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
We have been doing this show for almost 8 years now, and it's always interesting talking to different authors, and this was probably one of the ones I've laughed the hardest at in a long while. So thank you so much for that.
Now I got to talk him into bringing back on after book 6 comes out, so I can yell at you for that one.
Hey, anytime. Anytime. I am retired, so I am basically a house husband. So I have a lot of time on my hands.
Okay.
There you go.
So I guess we'll wrap it up here. Aaron, do you have anything out new with your Kindle Vella series?
New chapters are being released all the time. We're gonna have a little bit of a break coming up here, just because summer has been but yeah, there's a whole bunch of new chapters up since last time we talked.
Okay. So how many episodes are you up to now with that?
12, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
So go check out Aaron's Kindle Vella series. Other than that, we don't have anybody scheduled right now. We'll probably be picking some interviews up in the fall. I know Tosca Lee was on our shortlist, so
she's got some good stuff out, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think she does. So check the Facebook page. We should have that schedule up when we know what is coming up next. Thomas, thank you again so much for coming on the show. It has been an absolute delight, and you are more than welcome to come back anytime. Just reach out, and we would be happy to have you back on.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. I'll give you a ring sometime then. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
And we'll see you all later.
Bye.